So for number 4, notice there is only one squared variable. So this tells me I have a parabola equation here. So what I want to do though is I want my squared term to be positive. So I'm going to divide everything by -1. So this becomes positive x squared after I divide by -1, negative 10x minus y plus 21. Now, when it's the parabola, we're going to move the constant to the right side of the equal sign and the variable that doesn't have a square match with it. So I'm going to be actually adding y to the other side and subtracting 21. So I'll just do it all in the same step here. So now I have x squared minus 10, leave 10x, leave a blank space, equals y minus 21. Now I can complete the square. I take my b term, this negative 10, my negative 10 here, and I divide it by 2 and square it. So negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. That's what I'm going to add to the right side. But remember, instead of putting plus 25 in here, I put in what it was before I squared it. Because then that gives me what it factors into. X minus 5 and then squared. And then over here, I have to combine my constants. So negative 21 plus 25, and I get y plus 4. And now I have it in the standard form that I can now find my vertex, my p-value, my focus, my directrix, my axis of symmetry, and graph it. All right, 1. Notice this time I still only have one variable that is squared. Again, I want to make my squared variable positive, so let me divide everything by -1. So this will become positive 2y squared minus x plus 20y plus 49 equals 0. To the other side, I need to move the constant, and I also need to move the variable that doesn't have the square. So the x's do not have a squared variable, so I'm adding that to the other side as well. So that cancels. So now what I'm left with now is 2y squared plus 20y is equal to x minus 49. So now I need to have the coefficient in front of my squared term to be a 1. So I have to divide both of these by 2. So then it's going to become 2, and then y squared plus 10y, leave a blank space, equals x minus 49.
Is this where you do the b over 2 squared?
Yes. So now I take the 10, which is my b term, divide it by 2 and square it, becomes 5. 5 squared is 25. In here, I'm going to put the 5 squared. Now over here, you should be adding 25, but remember, you pulled that GCF out, so you have to multiply 2 times 25, and you're adding 50.
Whoa.
So now I need to factor this. Factors into y plus 5 squared with the coefficient, the GCF in the front. And then I'm going to add negative 49 plus 50, and I get 1. So this becomes x plus 1. Now remember, in order to calculate your p-value, this square term needed to be isolated. So I need to divide both sides by 2. And then your final standard form is y plus 5 squared. This divide by 2, remember, becomes 1/2, and then the x plus 1. And now we have it in a standard form for this parabola. When we graph it, it's going to be a c because it's a y squared. So then you would now find the vertex, the p-value, use that p-value to find the focus and the directrix.
How did we get a half?
Because you divide by 2. Divide by 2 is the same thing as multiply by 1/2. All right, next one, number 6. Notice there are 2 squared terms, an x squared and a y squared. Notice they're both opposite signs, so this is going to be a hyperbola. So again, I need to get my x terms together. So I'm going to switch the place of these two so that the x squared is next to the negative 2x. So x squared minus 2x, leave a little blank space, minus the y squared, and then I still have the minus 8 equals 0. I have to move the constant to the other side. I could have done that at the beginning. So I have x squared minus 2x, the blank space, y squared, and then equals 8. So now I need to complete the square for the x's. So I take the b term here, the negative 2, divide it by 2, and square it. I get negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. So in here I'm going to put negative 1 squared, but over here I'm going to put plus 1. So then now for the y, notice there's no b term here. So when I can just go ahead now and factor this, this ends up factoring into y minus 0 squared. There was no b term, nothing to add to the other side as well. Over here, 8 plus 1 is 9. The blue one is going to factor into x minus 1 squared. Now, I have to have my equation set equal to 1. So now I have to divide everything by 9. So my final equation is x minus 1 squared over 9. This y minus 0, I can just leave it as a y squared over 9. And then 9 divided by 9 is 1. And there's my final equation. And you would now go back, pull out the center, find the vertices, find the focus point, find the asymptotes. So for number 7, again, notice I've got both an x squared and a y squared. Again, they're opposite signs. So again, this is going to be another hyperbola. So again, I want to put my x terms together and my y's. So let me just switch the place of these two. So I'm going to write y squared, leave a blank space, negative 25x squared minus 100x. And let me go ahead and add the 125 to the other side as well.
Wait, you don't have to divide by negative 1?
No, because I switched the places. Because if I divide by negative 1, one of the squared terms is still going to be negative.
So you only divide if it's only 1 square term.
Yes. All right, so now I need to complete the square for both. So for the y, again, notice there's no b term here. So this is actually just going to factor into y minus 0 squared. For the blue, remember the coefficient in front has to be a 1. So I have to divide both of these by the negative 25. So then I get negative 25 x squared minus 4x, leave a blank space, equals the 125. I now need to take the b term of the blue and divide it by 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 and square it. Negative 2 squared, and that gives me positive 4. But again, remember in here I'm putting plus negative 2 squared. Now, the number that I'm going to add to the other side, remember you need to multiply the GCF by it. So then this becomes negative 100. Yeah, this is positive 4, because negative divided by a negative is a positive. So then this is actually plus 2 squared. So it's a positive 2. So then now when I multiply negative 25 times 4, it's negative 100. So then this can just drop down as y minus 0 squared. And then the blue factors into negative 25 times x plus 2 squared. And then I can add these, and I get 25. I need my equation equal to 1. Divide everything by 25.
Wait, this squared?
Yes.
Why'd you put the y squared first?
Now this just becomes y squared over 25. I can drop the minus 0. And then here, notice the 25 divided by 25. That just becomes a 1. So then here I'm just left with x plus 2 squared, and then it equals 1. to get your a squared and your b squared, you could put a 1 underneath here. A squared is always first in the hyperbola, and b squared would be second. So a squared is 25, b squared is 1. And then again, go back, find your center, your vertices, your focus, your asymptotes, and then you're going to graph the hyperbola. Again, we've got both an x squared and a y squared. Let's put the positive one first. So I'm going to put the 25y squared first, bring the 100y behind it, then move a blank space, and then negative 9x squared. And then let's also move the 125 to the other side. Next thing I have to do is complete the square for this. I have to divide them both by 25. So 25, and then y squared minus 4y, leave a blank space. Over here, again, notice no b term. So on this one, it'll just be negative 9, and then x minus 0 squared, and then the 125. I need to complete the square for the blue one. Take the b term, divide it by 2, and square it. And I get equals 4. So in here I'm putting plus negative 2 squared. Remember, multiply what you would have been adding to the other side, which would have been positive 4. Multiply that by 4. And then I get plus 100 over here. I now need to factor the blue. That trinomial factors into y minus 2 squared. The red one, you could just bring down the negative 9 and then the x minus 0 squared. Add these two, and you get 225. We now need to set it equal to 1. So divide everything by 225. I've got some fractions to simplify here. So 25 over 225, the first fraction here is going to simplify to y minus 2 squared. 25 times 9 is 225, so this will simplify to a 9. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 9. And then same thing here, a 1 and a 25, so it's like backwards. So then this one is going to be x squared over 25, and then it equals 1. Number 9, only one variable that is squared, and that's the y. So I need to move the x to the other side and the 26. So now I have y squared plus 10y, leave a blank space, negative x minus 26. Next thing I want to do is take the b term, this 10, divide it by 2, and square it. So I get 5 squared. So that's what I can put in here, plus 5 squared, and then over here, put plus 25. So factor this red, it factors into y minus, or y plus 5 squared, and then over here, negative x minus 1. Now, remember, we need a p-value, so what we need to do here is factor out a GCF of negative 1. So negative 1, x plus 1, and 4p is equal to negative 1. Or you don't even have to put it in as a negative 1, just leave it as a negative sign. The equation of the parabola. Next. Now, also, one thing that I told you when we were trying to graph these, I told you you needed to find an x-intercept or a y-intercept. Really, all you need to do is to figure out how fat or wide they are and use the axis of symmetry. It doesn't necessarily have to be an x or a y-intercept. Those are the easiest because you're plugging in zeros, though. Okay, last one. So notice I've got an x squared and a y squared. So I need to get the squared terms on the same side. So I need to move the 16y squared this time to the left side. So then now I'm left with, well, no, when you move it over, it becomes 16y squared minus 32y, leave a blank space, 9x squared, and then it equals 128. So now I need to complete the square for this one. I need to divide both things by 16. And then I'm left with y squared minus 2y. Leave a blank space. Notice no b term here. So just make it 9 and then x minus 0 squared equals the 128. I can complete the square for the red. Take the b term, divide it by 2 and square it. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. So you're going to take 16 times it by that 1 that you would have been adding. And you're going to be adding 16 to the other side. So plus 16 over here. So we'll factor the red. 16, y minus 1 squared. Then the 9 comes down. X minus 0 squared equals 144. We want it set equal to 1. Divide everything by 144. So then when I simplify the 16 and the 144, 16 goes into 144 9 times. So y minus 1 squared over 9 minus the 9 and the 144 also simplify. So erase this. So then this becomes a 1 and this becomes a 16. So then it becomes x squared over 16 equals 1. And now we have our